All right, ladies and gents, welcome back. It is another edition of Wharton in the Heezy. We are talking about 1-4, solving absolute value equations. And let's get started with this. So this is something we got to start doing in Algebra 2 now. Standards changed last year, and now we got to do this now. It was in Algebra 1. You guys didn't do it anyway in Algebra 1. We're going to do in Algebra 2. Okay, so solving absolute value equations. Hopefully, we're going to recall some information back in 7th and 8th grade math, hopefully maybe Algebra 1 as well, about what absolute value actually is. So the value, okay, the absolute value of a number is the distance. Is the distance the number is from 0 on a number line. Okay, on a number line. So what does that mean? Well, in this case, okay, if I look at a number line, oof, that's a terrible, not even a straight line. If I look at a number line, and here's 0, and we'll say this is at -3, so this is -1, -2, and then there's -3. Okay? How far is -3 away from 0? Remember, we're calculating distance. Distance is never negative. No matter what happens, distance is never, ever negative. I'll give you some examples here in a little bit. So how far is this away from 0? Well, it's 1, 2, 3. So the absolute value, which is these bars, right, equals 3. And now, if we go into another instance of now how we do an equation, we can say, okay, solve the absolute value of x equals 3. What numbers can go into here such that I would get 3? Well, we already know that -3 is 3, so x can be -3. We already did that from this number line. Well, what if x is now +3? So if I'm here, how far is +3 away from 0? 1, 2, 3. So +3 is also 3 away, so x can be -3 or x can be +3. So you get two answers from these equations. Not always, but sometimes you get two, or the majority of time you get two. Sometimes you get one, and sometimes you get none. And we'll get to those examples and how we can figure that out. Like right here. So I want to solve this equation. Can I have a number, any number, the distance can be negative? Well, it says right here, distance can never be negative. So the absolute value of something can never be negative. So this just doesn't exist. Okay, so this is your example of where you get no answers. So this doesn't exist. So therefore, the answer would be no solution. Okay, no solution. So that leads into the next point of saying absolute value can never equal a negative number. Okay, even though we just talked about it up here. An example of this, okay, is if I'm in my car. I don't even know how to draw a car. We're gonna block this car out. This is like my car back in the early 2000s. The thing looks like a box, and I'm going straight. Okay, and I'm gonna go to the mall because well, the mall back in the day was the place to be. If you weren't at the mall, then you weren't a popular kid. I was always at the mall. That didn't mean I was popular, but I was always there. Okay, so I'm going to the mall in my car, and I'm sitting here driving my car, and everybody else is in the car, and I'm driving to the mall. Well, if I drive to the mall, and if you were to think about this, like a Google Map, if I were to take a Google Map and look at directions to the mall, it's always going to be a positive value. Okay, it's always going to be a positive value. What happens if I actually took that car and I drove it backwards? So now I'm sitting here driving the car, looking back like a G, okay? And I'm driving backwards to the mall. Now I'm going to get a lot of looks. I'm probably going to get into an accident because it's really hard to drive backwards for a long distance. But what happens to the car? Like, the distance is still positive. Your odometer, which is your thing on the car that has like mileage, so we'll say this is like 1, 2, 3, 4.8. This number is still going to go up regardless, right, of you going backwards or forwards. So that's how distance works. Think of it as absolute value. The distance is always positive. Any way you travel, whether it's forwards or backwards, it's always a positive distance. All right? Cool beans. Let's move it on up. Let's solve some absolute value equations. Let's get into an example of how we actually start doing this. So we're going to let A, B, and C be constants, and C is greater than 0. Technically, B or C could equal 0, so it actually could be equal as well. That would be okay. But remember, it can never be negative. This number here cannot be negative, because that's bad. That's bad. Now, there's some instances where it could be negative, and you're going to be like, well, you just told me it couldn't. You got to explain, okay? We'll get there. So if the absolute value of ax plus b is equal to 0, or is equal to c, sorry, then we get ax plus b equals c, or ax plus b is equal to negative c. So because absolute value could be a positive number, like the number inside could be a positive or negative, but when I take the absolute value bars of the inside term, I'm always going to get positive. So I have to account for the negative piece of that expression on the inside of that absolute value bars. So this is where you're getting, okay? So first things first, I'm the realist. I think that's still popular. I don't know if you don't know Iggy Azalea, then you better go Google her, because I will be referring to her a lot, because I like that song. God, you got the whole world feel it. So once I have absolute value, ax plus b inside the bars, nothing else there, okay, just the bars, then I get two equations. All right, I get two equations. And this is going to be a little confusing. You got to take practice. Okay, so here's some steps. Here's some steps. When we want to solve for the absolute value, okay, what that means is you want the absolute value isolated on one side of equal sign with everything else on the other. Everything else on other side. Okay? So I'll give you an example here. Say I have the absolute value of 3x minus 7 minus 3 equals 4. The first step is to move this over by adding 3 to this side and adding 3 to this, because that goes away. That's the first step, because I want the absolute value of 3x minus 7 equal 4 plus 3 is 7. I want this. The absolute value is by itself on the left side. Now, it could be the right side or the left side. It doesn't matter the side, as long as one side only has absolute value and then the other side has everything else. Okay? All right. The second piece is, once I have it isolated, number 2 is you need to set two equations. So you're going to take inside of absolute value, I'm going to abbreviate as ABS value, absolute value. You want to take that, equal it to the right side, and equal it to the negative of the right side. Okay? Now, that's a little confusing, but here we go. We kind of did that example above. So because I have the absolute value of 3x minus 7 is equal to 7, this is the isolation I was talking about. Once I have that isolation, then I take the inside of my bar of the absolute value, equal it to the right side. Then I also take the inside and I equal it to the negative of the right side. So one's positive, one is negative. And then the third step here is you solve the two equations simultaneously. Means you solve them at the same time, or not the same time, but you solve one, solve the other, and then both of those are your answers. Okay? Both of those are your answers. All right, those are your steps. Now we're going to follow those steps as we go through. Got to make sure we understand this stuff. It's really not that hard, but if it's the first time you've done it, then it could get kind of messy and tricky. So we're going to make sure we kind of keep all of our work really nice and neat and easily legible, right? We want to make sure we can read what we're writing. Okay, so number one. The only thing on the left side is our absolute value here and here. There's no other numbers on the like over here or in front of this. So this is already isolated. Great. We're going to go to step 2. So this was step 1. Step 2 is I take what's inside, 11 over 4. Oof, that's supposed to be a 4. There we go. Equals it to the right side. And I take the inside as well, and I equal it to the negative of the left side. And then step 3 is I solve them, right? I solve them. So hopefully you remember now, okay, this is division, so I need to multiply by the reciprocal to both sides. Same thing here, by the reciprocal. Multiply by the reciprocal, okay? So what do? Well, these cancel, those cancel. I'm left with r equals. Let's do some math here. I'm not going to multiply 77 times 4, even though I could. I don't even know, 280 plus 302 or so, 308, something like that. And then I could multiply 12 times 11 and get 132, but I'm not going to. I'm going to simplify on a diagonal. 77 divided by 11 is 7. 12 divided by 4 is 3. So this is 7 over 3. Now I go to the second one. R equals. Well, that's going to cancel. That's going to cancel, right? So I get R equals. What's going to happen over here? Well, these are the same numbers, so I'm going to get negative 7/3. So my answer is R is equal to negative 7/3, comma, positive 7/3. Now, most of the time you write your answer in these curly brackets, okay? Because you have two answers. That's usually how we do it in math, okay? So write your answers in curly brackets. Curly brackets. I'll mention that on a quiz here and there, but over the course of time, if you don't do that, it will be marked wrong. You need to have curly brackets around 2 or more answers. Okay, that tells me that that's the proper notation and how it's supposed to be written. All right, number 2. Let's isolate. Because this is here on this side, but it's not in the absolute value, I have to get rid of it. Well, how do I get rid of it? I multiply by the reciprocal. Cancel, cancel. So I get absolute value of x plus 2 is equal to 18. 6 times 3 is 18. That's step 1. Step 2, I write both equations. Positive and then the negative. Step 3 is now I solve it. So x equals 16 or x equals negative 20. Now I'm skipping some steps. You are in Algebra 2, so I'm expecting you to know how to do this. This right here is a 7th grade equation and a 7th grade equation. If you cannot solve those without me showing you the work, then you need to email me, okay? So x equals 16, comma, negative 20, curly brackets. If you have a hard time making a curly bracket, then make sure that you have some sort of squiggle for what those brackets are. If you put parentheses, that is wrong. Okay? If you put a square bracket because you don't know what you're doing, that's wrong. Have some squiggle in there, and that's okay. All right? Here we go. Number 3. This negative 9 is not on the inside, so I actually have to move it over. So absolute value of 2x equals, I got to add 9 over here, right? So that's negative 4. But what's happening? Absolute value can never equal a negative number. This is a negative here. So this answer is no solution. This cannot happen. Can't happen. Therefore, you're done on that problem. Okay, let's go to number 4. This one is already isolated. There's no other numbers that are not in the absolute value on this side. So now I can make my equation. That's step 1. Step 2, 5 minus 2x equals 15. 5 minus 2x equals negative 15. Those are my two equations. Number 3, you solve. You minus the 5, you get 10. You divide by negative 2, you get negative 5. Minus the 5, you get negative 20. Divide by negative 2, you get positive 10. So x equals 10. So x equals negative 5 comma 10 curly brackets. Curly brackets. Number 5. I got to bring over that 3. So I get the absolute value of 3b plus 5 equals 7. That's step 1. Step 2. 3b plus 5 equals 7. 3b plus 5 equals negative 7. Now I solve. That's step 3 now. If I subtract 5, I get 2. Well, 2 divided by 3 is 2/3. That's okay to leave it as a fraction. Do not put it in decimal form. Don't do it. Don't do it. Fractions are so much easier. They look so much nicer. Okay? If you put this in points, if you just say, Mr. Wharton, it's 0.6 repeated, like, so I'm going to do this with a line over it. I'm going to say, we're not in 4th grade anymore, and it's wrong. Okay? We don't use lines like that no more. Okay? I don't even know why they teach it to you, honestly. When I taught 7th and 8th grade, that was the worst thing that happened. I hated putting lines. Put the bar over the number because that means it goes on forever. Yeah, it doesn't. You don't use it ever again, so don't do it. This one here, minus the 5, that's negative 12. Negative 12 divided by 3 is negative 4. So b is equal to negative 4. So my answer is b equals curly brackets, 2/3, comma, negative 4. And that's it for the first 5. Let's go on to number 6. Hopefully I didn't make any mistakes. I probably did, but that's okay. I'll go back and fix it when I'm there editing my video. Yeah, I edit my videos. I don't just put this stuff in Screencastify and hit submit. I go and edit these things. If you haven't noticed, with all of the memes and videos and what else do I put in these things? Some crazy videos, some crazy music. I don't even know. Okay, there might be something behind me. I don't even know right now. Okay, it might be a blob. It could be some dude looking like a manatee or like a whale, or some person getting hit in the head with a ball. I don't even know. I can't tell you. Well, let's go to number 6. I got to divide by this 6 because this is over here, so I got to bring it over here. So I get 5 plus 5r in absolute value equals 5. This is the first step. Step number 2. 5 plus 5r equals 5. 5 plus 5r equals negative 5. Now I solve. Minus 5, that's 0. 0 divided by 5 is 0, so r is equal to 0. Minus 5, that's negative 10. Divided by 5 is negative 2. So I get r equals 0, comma, negative 2. Brackets, curly of them. Number 7. Number 7. What I want to, here's what I want. I want you guys to pause the video. Pause the video. Try 7, 8, and 9. Okay? Try 7, 8, and 9. Pause the video, please, and then hit play when you get done.
Now! Get to the chopper! Pause the video! Now! Do it!
Alright, hopefully you hit play after you actually did it. And didn't just get the video play and then you're like, it's okay, I'm gonna cheat. Don't do that. Be honest with yourself. Do what you need to do, okay? If you have questions, that's fine, but try the problems, okay? I'm gonna relate math to anything else in the on the planet. If you want to get good at it, you gotta practice, and it's okay to get answers wrong. That actually helps you grow. All right. If you are an athlete, you probably have to practice. Like I played basketball, I played baseball. Okay. If I want to, catch ground balls on base paths, right? In first playing first base, I gotta practice how hard that ball is coming, or how soft it is, or the spin on it. All right. I'm at the free throw line in basketball, and I gotta practice, make sure my shot is good. Okay. If you're on a soccer field, you gotta. I don't know. I never played soccer. I don't really like the sport, but I'm guessing when you're passing, you got to make sure you're kicking the ball right with the right spin, and you're leading the person that you're trying to hit to, and Or if a goalie, the ball's coming at you, you got to look at the spin on the ball to try to adjust the position. You got to practice this thing. If you're a band, orchestra, choir person, in order to get better at your craft, you have to practice. If you like English, you'll probably like English because you like it, you're good at it, and you practice, and that's why you do that. But what happens with math is we don't like it, so we don't practice. We just, I don't know, we just give up very easily, okay? Everybody can do math. It's you have to put the time into it, okay? You're not automatically a good driver when you turn 16. You suck at driving. You have to practice to get better. And even after practicing for 20 years, you still suck at it. But still, you like it because it gets you to the mall so you can go hang out with your friends. The Concord Mall, you know, because that's where it's at. Anyway, back in here. But hopefully you guys pause the video, practice the problems, and then hit play. Okay? Hopefully you like the nice little video or whatever I had when I paused the video. I don't even know, man. I forget half the things that I do here. Number 7. When I bring this 1 over, right, becomes negative 22, and absolute value cannot equal a negative number. This can't happen, so that's why it's a no solution. Number 8, it was already isolated, so I just made my 2 equations, positive 2, negative 2, solved, and I got negative 2 and negative 6. Your answers can be negative. That's okay. You just can't have your absolute value equal a negative number. Like here. I can't have this happen, but I can have this because this is positive. It just so happens that my answers are negative, and that's okay. Number 9, I brought the 5 over. That gives me a negative 3. Then I divided by positive 3 to get negative 1. Well, that also can't happen, so I also got a no solution. Okay, let's go on to the next couple. We only got a couple more to go, and then this video is done. Oh, man, these things are hard. 10 and 11. Oh, my gosh. Why did I do this to you guys? Why did I do that? Okay, 10 and 11. Number 10, okay, let's go to it. I got to bring over the 4 first, so I got to add 4. That gives me negative 40. Then I got to divide by the negative 5 over here, so that gives me positive 8. Okay, that's positive, so that's good. So I got the absolute value of 3x minus 1 is equal to positive 8. Okay, so that's good. We got positive, we're good to go. Good to go! Okay, so now that's the first step, right? I did all that extra work to get to there, first step. Number 2, make my 2 equations. 3x minus 1 equals negative 8. Then the third step, remember, is to solve. So add 1 is 9, divide by 3 is 3. Add 1 is negative 7, divide by 3 is x equals negative 7 thirds. So x equals 3 comma negative 7 thirds, curly bracket. Curly bracket. All right, number 11. This is already isolated, so that's good. Okay, that's good. So let's make my 2 equations. X over 4 plus, now 2 and 1/12. Okay, that looks really nice there, but it's actually kind of janky. It's actually going to be better to have it as 25/12, right? Over 24 minus 20 equals 73 over negative 19. Holy cow. This stinks. But it's not that terrible. We just have to know, I'm going to leave this like that. We just have to do some manipulation, okay? And so some manipulation is this. Remember when I have something being divided by something else. Well, technically this is a fraction here, and this is another fraction. Remember, when I have a fraction, which is x over 4 plus 25 over 12, we're going to say that's a fraction, because it really is. When I'm dividing it by another fraction, I'm really multiplying it by the reciprocal. Okay? That's 7th grade when you learned how to divide fractions. All right? Now, what does this actually do for me? Well, I can actually distribute this through to maybe make it into nice terms, or nicer terms, instead of having fractions upon fractions there. So x over 4 times 1 over 24 is really x over 96. Plus 25 times 1 is 25. 12 times 24, that's a big number. I don't know what that is. Let me get my handy dandy calculator out. Mainly because it's kind of a large number. 288. Oh, yeah, 120. Yeah, okay, never mind. I could have done that in my head. Okay, so that's what that is there. Minus 20 equals 73 over negative 19. Again, I still have that absolute value bars like that. So all I did was just manipulate the fraction there. All right? Now, let's go ahead and turn it into two equations. So I got x over 96 plus 25 over 288 minus 20 equals 73 over negative 19. Wow. This is crazy. There's not much else we can do. Okay? These numbers are kind of large, and they're kind of don't go together, so we just kind of have to play it out. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to move this over here, right? So that's really plus 20. So I get x over 96. You notice I only worked with the positive one here. Oh my gosh! I'm going to leave this in the video, and I'm not going to cut this out, but you're probably looking at me. Hopefully you found the error that I made, and hopefully you're getting so mad at me right now. Why is he continuing this? Why didn't he see this earlier? I am so mad at myself that I didn't see it, and I wasted all this time doing the multiplication, and I wasted your time if you didn't already catch this. This is already isolated. This negative means this whole fraction is negative. That means I can't have an absolute value equal to negative, so this is no solution. Oh my gosh. That was a waste of my life that I'll never get back. And now I gotta go back in and edit all this. I'm gonna keep it in, but I'm still gonna edit this video, so I'm even wasting my life even more. Alright, here we go. Word problem. Michael Jordan. If you guys don't know who MJ was, greatest basketball player of all time. If you guys think LeBron James is the best basketball player of all time, then you did not see Michael Jordan play. You were not alive to see him play, and I'm so angry that you would bring up LeBron James. LeBron James. MJ was the bomb diggity. He averaged 37 points per game in 1987. Suppose in one game, MJ was 12 points from his average. What possible point totals could Jordan have scored? Write and solve an absolute value equation to answer this question. Okay? So, how am I going to do this? Well, there's a lot of things that I need. First, we know it's 37 points. Okay? We were 12 points from his average. All right? And what possible points? So this is kind of very important here. What possible? I want to find the range in values that he can technically score, or the possible values that he could have scored. All right? If you're just looking at this, okay, if he's 12 points from his average, you could probably deduce the two answers. You can probably say, well, it's 49 points, because that's 12 points above 37, or he could have scored 25 points, because that's 12 points below. It doesn't say it has to be above or below. It just says it's from his average. It doesn't tell you above or below. I got to come up with these values here, and how do I do that? Okay, mathematically, not like just guessing and checking kind of. Okay, so absolute value. Remember, that's the distance, right? 37. From his 12 points from his average. So we do not know, okay, how many points he scored. Okay, he scored X. We don't know how many points he scored in one game. All right, the absolute value there equals. Well, now what was the distance between the points that he averaged and the points that he scored? Well, that's where the 12 comes in. Okay, this is the distance right here. That's the distance. The distance is always to the right of the equal sign. Now, let's solve this sucker. So it's already isolated. So I get 37 minus x equals 12. 37 minus x equals negative 12. Minus 37. Negative x equals negative 25. Divide by positive, I get x equals 25, which is what we have. Let's do this one. Minus 37. Negative x equals negative 49. Divide by negative 1. I get x equals 49, which is what I had there. So mathematically, this is how you do it. Yes, I understand you can come up with numbers yourself because this is a pretty easy problem. But We got to find it mathematically. All right, that's it for this video. 1.4, 12 example problems. Shouldn't be that difficult. That gives you some more practice problems in, in your practice to get moving there. You guys got a quiz coming up? Probably. I don't know. But if you do, make sure you ask questions if you have any. And other than that, I will see you on the flip side. Deuces my gooses.